Lucas Vale wiped his hands on his worn lab coat as the storm outside shook the small outpost. Lightning flashed, casting strange shadows across the room filled with humming machines and flickering screens. The wind howled like an angry beast, rattling the metal walls, and then, a sound unlike any thunder, a bone-deep roar shook the building. Lucas froze. It was huge, not like anything from the local wildlife. He barely had time to grab a flashlight when the outer wall trembled again. A shadow, vast and scaly, moved across the open hangar doors. The roar came again, louder this time, and a shape slammed against the building. Lucas stumbled back as the doors buckled under immense weight. Through the crack he saw it, a dragon, scales shimmering faintly even in the storm, wings folded tight, eyes glowing with a strange intelligence. Clutched in her claws was something small, a hatchling no bigger than a human child. Its chest heaved weakly and faint light pulsed from its tiny body. Lucas's heart pounded. He had read about alien species, studied them, but never imagined one would appear here now, desperate and alive. The mother dragon's eyes met his, wide and pleading. He knew instinctively that hesitation could mean death for the little creature. Okay, Lucas whispered, his voice steady despite his racing pulse. He darted to the storage crates and pulled together blankets, antiseptic, and a medkit. The hatchling thrashed weakly, and the dragon roared again, shaking the ground. It was almost as if she was saying, "Hurry." Lucas pushed open the hangar doors just enough to reach her. The storm sprayed rain in stinging sheets, but he focused. "It's all right. I'll help," he said, raising his hands slowly. The dragon recoiled at first, then, with a careful, almost trusting tilt of her head, extended her claws. Lucas stepped forward and gently took the hatchling. The tiny creature's body was warm but trembling, its pulsing chest light flickering weakly. Inside the lab, Lucas spread a blanket over a table and set the hatchling down. He checked its vitals with the scanner on his desk. The readout flickered uncertainly. Nothing looked normal. Its pulse was irregular, almost chaotic, and the soft glow from its chest seemed to sync strangely with the scanner. Lucas frowned. He had to act fast. "Hang on, little one," he muttered, rolling up his sleeves. He applied the antiseptic and wrapped the hatchling carefully. Even the simplest actions, keeping it warm, steady, breathing, felt like life or death. He could hear the dragon mother pacing outside, each step shaking the floor. Her eyes were unblinking, filled with a mix of fear and hope, and every instinct told Lucas he couldn't fail. He grabbed a vial of human-grade nutrients, adapting it for alien physiology with quick calculations, and held it to the hatchling's mouth. It nibbled weakly. A small heartbeat of success. Lucas allowed himself a flicker of hope, even as the storm raged. The mother outside gave a low, almost humming growl that seemed approving. Then something unexpected happened. The hatchling's glow brightened sharply, pulsing in rhythm with Lucas's own heartbeat. He stepped back, startled, and the scanner went haywire, displaying readings he had never seen. The tiny dragon's eyes flicked open, revealing an intelligence far beyond any ordinary creature. Its gaze seemed to study him, recognizing him. The dragon outside let out a warning roar, louder than before, sending a shiver down Lucas's spine. Something moved in the shadows beyond the lab. Another shape, huge and unnatural, barely visible in the storm. Lucas froze, pulse hammering. Was it part of the mother species? Or a predator? His mind raced, and every decision from this moment on could mean survival or death for both the hatchling and himself. Lightning struck again, illuminating the approaching figure. The hatchling whimpered, its small body trembling violently, but its eyes never left Lucas. And then, with a sudden sharp roar from outside, the dragon mother pressed against the door, almost demanding his attention. Lucas realized that in that moment, nothing would stop him from saving this tiny life, even if the storm and the unknown outside were against him. He took a deep breath, steadying his nerves. "We're going to get through this," he whispered, though even he wasn't sure if it was true. The hatchling's glow pulsed brighter, and the shadow beyond the lab shifted again, moving closer, more deliberate. Lucas knew this was no ordinary storm, no ordinary night. Whatever was coming, whatever was watching, it would test every skill, every ounce of courage he had. And then, something slammed against the lab window. A massive claw, glittering with rain and scales, scraped the glass. The hatchling screamed, a sound Lucas could feel more than hear. He froze for just a second, and in that instant he realized the truth. Saving this creature wasn't just about healing. It was about surviving the impossible. The storm rattled, the hatchling shivered, the dragon outside growled, and Lucas knew he had to act now before the next strike came. Lucas barely had time to catch his breath before the storm escalated. The wind howled like an angry predator, rattling the lab walls and blowing rain through every crack. The hatchling's tiny chest pulsed weakly, the light flickering like a dying star. Lucas's hands shook as he tried to stabilize it, adjusting the improvised nutrient drips and monitoring the alien vitals on the scanner. Every pulse, every flicker made his heart race. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. A creature clearly not of this world, dying in his hands while the storm outside roared like it wanted to tear the lab apart. The dragon mother pressed against the reinforced doors again, letting out low, urgent growls that shook the floor. She seemed impatient, aware of the unseen threat moving just beyond the rain and darkness. Lucas glanced toward the hangar window and his stomach sank. Shadows were shifting in the storm. Something huge, massive, and deliberately moving. Not lightning, not falling debris, something alive. He shook off the fear and focused. "I can't panic," he muttered to himself. He rechecked the hatchling's vitals. The heart monitor blinked in jagged, chaotic pulses. Every attempt to stabilize it seemed to trigger another irregular spike. He realized quickly that standard human medicine wouldn't work. He had to improvise, and fast. Lucas grabbed his tools and began working furiously, using a small portable bioanalyzer to study the hatchling's glowing physiology. Its chest radiated pulses of light with a rhythm that seemed almost intelligent. He frowned. The hatchling wasn't just dying, it was communicating, in a way only he might be able to understand. He traced the glowing patterns, adjusting the lab's energy field to resonate with the pulsations. A small spark of hope, its heartbeat steadied, even if just slightly. Then the lights flickered violently. Rain lashed through the lab as the storm hit its peak. Lucas's gaze shot to the shadows at the hangar window. The massive creature he had glimpsed before had moved closer. A clawed limb scraped the metal walls. Something wasn't just watching, they were coming closer, drawn by the hatchling's presence. The dragon mother reacted instantly. She spread her wings against the storm, producing a deafening roar that rattled every window. Lucas realized she was more than protective, she was aware of danger he couldn't see yet. He felt a small surge of respect and urgency. She was scared, he needed to be careful. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and the hatchling might not survive. His hands flew over the instruments, scanning alien markers on the hatchling's tiny scales. The glyphs glowed brighter when he aligned the lab's energy field with the pulse. Lucas held his breath, carefully adjusting the frequency. Slowly, the hatchling's light synchronized more evenly with the monitors. It gave a weak, small chirp, and its chest expanded with a steadier rhythm. A micro payoff, a small sign of life that gave Lucas a flicker of hope. But hope brought new danger. The shadows outside shifted again. Rain spattered against the windows as something huge, heavier than the dragon mother, pressed against the outer hangar wall. Lucas froze. The hatchling pulsed brighter with each approach. The scanner went haywire, displaying readings he had never seen. He realized that whatever was approaching wasn't just a predator, it reacted to the hatchling's energy. Lucas's mind raced. He couldn't rely on human strength or weapons, he had to think, to be clever. He grabbed the lab's security drones, small flying units used for research surveys, and reprogrammed them to patrol the perimeter. Using the hatchling's light as a guide, he set a defensive grid around the lab, hoping it would buy him time. Each drone whirred into the storm, barely holding against the wind, forming a fragile shield of buzzing metal. The dragon mother pressed her snout against the reinforced door, and Lucas could see her eyes shine with a strange combination of hope and fear. She understood his effort. A bond, silent but powerful, formed between them in the middle of chaos. Lucas felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about saving a life, it was about trust, courage, and survival against odds that would break almost anyone. Then came the micro cliffhanger. A flash of lightning illuminated the approaching shadow fully, and Lucas's stomach dropped. The figure was enormous, far larger than the mother dragon, with glinting scales and eyes that burned with cold intelligence. It wasn't just a storm predator, it was hunting them. Its gaze locked onto the hatchling. Lucas acted without thinking. He grabbed a heavy tool, a reinforced metal rod, and pressed it against the hatchling, using its glow to momentarily distract the predator. The creature halted for just a second, enough for Lucas to adjust the energy field. Sparks shot across the lab as the field hummed in harmony with the hatchling's pulse. The predator recoiled, snarling, but didn't retreat. It tested the barrier again. Lucas's palms were sweaty, heart hammering. Every second counted. The hatchling pulsed again, brighter this time, synchronized perfectly with Lucas's makeshift energy shield. A tiny, miraculous sign, It had survived another round. He allowed himself a breath, though fear still clawed at his chest. The dragon mother roared in approval, beating her wings in a protective frenzy. The predator outside growled back, circling like a storm itself, unwilling to give up. Lucas realized then that the night wasn't just a storm. It was a battle, a test of intelligence, courage, and determination. And the smallest being in his hands held a power he could barely understand. One wrong move, one failed calculation, and everything would fall apart. And then, with a sudden jarring crash, the outer lab door trembled violently. Something struck it hard enough to make the walls shudder. The hatchling screamed, a sharp, piercing sound that reverberated through Lucas's chest. He turned to the monitors. The vitals were spiking wildly. The storm, the predator, and the tiny glowing dragon had combined into a moment of pure, unpredictable chaos. Lucas clenched his jaw. He had kept the hatchling alive this far, but the night was far from over. Something was coming through the storm, and it would not wait. Lucas pressed himself against the edge of the lab table, sweat stinging his eyes as the storm outside raged with renewed fury. The hatchling's glow pulsed faintly in the dim light, no longer chaotic but rhythmic, almost aware. Lucas's mind raced. The predator outside wasn't just a brute force. Its movements, deliberate and precise, suggested intelligence. And it wasn't alone. He could sense more than one pair of eyes watching through the torrential rain. He crouched closer to the hatchling, scanning its tiny chest. The glowing glyphs traced along its scales shifted subtly, forming patterns that Lucas had never seen. At first he thought it was random, but then a spark of insight hit him. These were not just markings. They were a language, a kind of communication. His pulse quickened. Could it understand him? Could it speak, somehow? "All right, little one," Lucas whispered, steadying his hands. "Let's see if you can tell me what's going on." He tapped into the lab's neural interface, a prototype scanner designed to read alien brain activity. The hatchling's glow responded instantly, brightening in pulses that synchronized with the scanner's signals. Lucas's jaw tightened. He was seeing patterns that mirrored thoughts, not just instincts. The hatchling was intelligent. Before he could react further, the massive predator outside struck the hangar door again. The metal groaned under its weight, and the floor trembled beneath Lucas's feet. The dragon mother roared, flaring her wings in a protective stance, but Lucas knew brute force alone wouldn't hold it off. He had to be clever. His mind raced, connecting threads too fast for fear to catch him. The hatchling's energy was a conduit. He could use it to manipulate the lab's systems. He grabbed the main power console and began rerouting the lab's energy output, channeling it into the containment field around the hatchling. Sparks flew, wires sizzled, and alarms blared, but he didn't stop. Each adjustment caused the hatchling to pulse brighter, stabilizing its heartbeat while sending a shockwave through the outer perimeter. The predator recoiled, a shrill roar echoing over the storm, but it didn't retreat entirely. Lucas realized that whatever this creature was, it was hunting with a purpose. It wasn't attacking out of hunger alone, it wanted the hatchling. And that meant there was more at stake than he had imagined. A sudden, unexpected pattern emerged. The hatchling's pulses shifted, forming coherent bursts that Lucas could now recognize as fragments of memory, impressions, even images. One vivid flash hit him directly. A sprawling alien landscape, jagged mountains lit by twin suns, and a horde of predators hunting its kind. The hatchling had lived through trauma before it even arrived here. Lucas's stomach clenched. This small being carried the weight of a whole species. He turned to the dragon mother. Her eyes met his, blazing with intelligence and fear. It was clear she understood that he could help, and that he might be the only one capable of keeping the hatchling alive. Lucas's resolve hardened. He wasn't just a scientist now. He was a protector, the line between life and death for these creatures. The predator shifted again, testing the lab's weak points. Lucas acted on instinct. He grabbed one of the lab drones, hastily attaching an improvised energy emitter. He positioned it near the hatchling, using the creature's pulse to charge the device. Then, with a deep breath, he activated it. A brilliant shockwave surged outward, illuminating the storm in a moment of blinding light. The predator roared in pain, staggering back, and the dragon mother seized the moment to beat her wings violently, throwing wind and debris against the interloper. Lucas could feel the tension spike. The hatchling chirped, almost as if it were cheering. For a heartbeat, victory seemed possible. Then came the shock. The hatchling's glow shifted again, and Lucas realized something terrifying. It wasn't just responding to him. It was initiating an effect of its own. Small, sharp projections of energy shot out from its body, forming a protective dome around it. Lucas barely had time to step back as the predator tried to strike through the field. Each contact caused sparks, smoke and tremors, but it could not penetrate. The hatchling wasn't just alive, it was powerful, far beyond what Lucas had imagined. His pulse raced. He had stabilized the hatchling, held the predator at bay, and unlocked a fragment of its hidden intelligence. But questions flooded his mind. How had such a small creature survived so long? Why had it come to a human? And, most pressing, what did the predator want with it so desperately? Lucas realized he had to push further. He grabbed the scanner and tuned it to the hatchling's rhythm, trying to establish direct communication. A series of vivid, disjointed images flooded his mind: fleeing predators, distant kin, a hidden sanctuary, and a phrase that echoed in alien syntax, yet he somehow understood: "You are the key." A shiver ran down his spine. He was the key. The hatchling had chosen him, or destiny had, but the implications were staggering. He wasn't just protecting a baby dragon. He was holding the balance of something far larger, something beyond human understanding. The storm howled, the predator circled again, and the dragon mother crouched in protective readiness. Lucas knew the night was far from over, but in that brief window of connection, he glimpsed a glimmer of hope. The hatchling's light pulsed steadily, synchronized with the drones and the makeshift energy field. Small but potent. And then a sudden sharp crack echoed through the lab. The hangar door shuddered violently as if something immense had struck it, and the hatchling let out a cry, a desperate, piercing sound that reverberated through Lucas's chest. The predator had found a weak point. Lucas froze for just a moment, then clenched his fists. He had stabilized the hatchling, discovered its intelligence, and repelled the first attack, but the real challenge had just begun. Outside, shadows moved in the storm, larger than anything he had imagined, more deliberate, more threatening. The hatchling's glow brightened again as if sensing the danger, and the dragon mother's wings beat faster, creating gusts that rattled every panel in the lab. Lucas realized the truth: the night wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a test of human ingenuity, courage, and determination. The smallest being in his hands, the alien hatchling, carried the weight of an entire unknown world. And he, a single human, was suddenly at the center of a war he could barely comprehend. The storm crashed around them, the predator's roar echoed closer, and the hatchling pulsed brighter than ever. Lucas's jaw tightened. He couldn't fail. Not now. Not ever. Lucas's hands trembled as he raced to stabilize the hatchling, its light pulsing faster with every beat of its tiny heart. The storm outside roared like a living monster, lightning flashing across the sky, illuminating the hangar in stark, electric bursts. The predator had stopped circling. It was coming in, moving with terrifying precision. Lucas knew there was no room for hesitation. One misstep, and the hatchling, the dragon mother, and maybe even himself would be lost. He glanced at the dragon mother, her wings spread wide, muscles tense, claws gripping the storm-battered metal floor. Her glowing eyes met his, and for a fleeting second, Lucas saw something he hadn't expected: trust. She knew he could act, that his human mind might succeed where sheer strength could fail. That thought ignited a spark of determination in him. He couldn't let her down. He wouldn't. The predator lunged, smashing into the hangar doors with a force that made the walls shake. Debris flew everywhere. Lucas dove toward the hatchling, shielding it with his body as the lab quaked. Sparks erupted from the overhead wiring, some landing dangerously close to the makeshift containment field. The hatchling screamed, a sharp, desperate sound that cut through the roar of the storm. Lucas clenched his jaw. He had seconds to act, seconds that would decide everything. He grabbed the nearest drone and hurled it toward the approaching predator, hoping to distract it. The small machine buzzed violently, lights flashing, but it barely slowed the creature. The predator's massive claws swiped through the air, tearing through the lab wall where the drone had flown. Lucas cursed under his breath and sprinted to the energy console. He had to make the hatchling's pulse do more than stabilize. It had to become a weapon. Sweat ran down his face as he reprogrammed the lab's systems, channeling every ounce of energy into a harmonic field that resonated with the hatchling's glowing pulse. He could feel the strain through his fingertips. The power surging through the machines threatened to overload at any moment. Lightning struck again, causing a shower of sparks to cascade around him. He ignored it, focusing on synchronizing the field perfectly. The hatchling's glow brightened, radiating waves of energy that formed a protective dome. The predator slammed into the field, hissing in frustration. Lucas held his breath. The dome shook violently, but it held. The hatchling's light pulsed faster, reacting instinctively to the threat, while Lucas continued adjusting the resonance. Every beat of the tiny creature's heart amplified the energy around it, creating a barrier strong enough to repel the predator's attacks, for now. The dragon mother roared, using her wings to whip up gusts of wind that threw debris at the predator, buying Lucas precious seconds. He could feel her anxiety, her hope, and her trust in him. He had to act beyond defense. He had to go on the offensive. Lucas noticed a pattern in the predator's attacks. It was relying on brute force, predictable strikes. He adjusted the field, focusing the hatchling's pulse into short, concentrated bursts. The predator stumbled, recoiling from the sudden surges of energy. Sparks and fragments of metal flew, and for the first time, Lucas saw fear in its glowing eyes. The predator was powerful, but it had underestimated human ingenuity and the bond between Lucas and the hatchling. He seized the moment. Sprinting across the lab, he positioned himself beside the hatchling and placed his hands gently on its glowing chest. He focused, mentally synchronizing his heartbeat with its pulse. A surge of energy rippled outward, sending the predator crashing against the lab walls, staggering it with shockwaves of light. The hatchling shrieked, wings fluttering weakly, but Lucas steadied it, maintaining the energy flow. The storm outside intensified, but inside the lab, a strange calm took hold. The predator, disoriented and injured, backed away, hissing in fury. Lucas knew it wasn't defeated, it would return, but he had gained the advantage. The hatchling's glow stabilized, brighter and steadier than before. Lucas allowed himself a small, fleeting smile. They had survived another round together. But the victory was temporary. Sparks flew from damaged circuits, and the lab trembled as the storm continued to batter it. Lucas noticed something alarming. The hatchling's glow pulsed with a pattern he had never seen before, a rapid sequence that seemed deliberate, intelligent. It was sending a message, or perhaps trying to activate something hidden in the lab's equipment. Lucas's eyes widened as he realized the truth. The hatchling wasn't just a passive being in need of care, it had latent power, the ability to interact with technology and manipulate energy. It had been waiting for someone like him, a human who could understand and synchronize with it. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He wasn't just protecting a creature, he was unlocking something that could change everything. Outside, the predator growled and circled again, heavier and more deliberate than before. The dragon mother pressed against the doors, wings bracing for another strike. Lucas glanced at the hatchling, whose eyes met his with intelligence and trust. He knew what he had to do. Taking a deep breath, he synchronized fully with the hatchling's pulse, amplifying the energy field to its maximum. Sparks arced through the lab as he poured all his focus into creating a concentrated wave of force. The predator lunged one final time and Lucas released the energy. The blast erupted outward in a blinding surge of light and sound. The predator slammed against the reinforced wall, crashing to the floor in defeat. The hatchling chirped weakly but brightly, glowing with a steady, radiant light that filled the lab. Lucas staggered back, breathing heavily, and allowed himself a rare moment of triumph. The dragon mother nudged the hatchling gently, wings folding around it protectively. Lucas stepped closer, still shaking, and whispered, "You're safe, for now." His heart pounded with adrenaline and relief, but he knew the night wasn't over. The predator had been only the first test. As he checked the scanners, Lucas noticed a strange flicker in the hatchling's glow, a pulse that formed shapes almost like coordinates. His eyes narrowed. The hatchling wasn't done. It had a purpose, a message, and possibly a destination. He realized that their fight had been only the beginning. A larger mystery awaited, a challenge far beyond the storm, the predator, or even the hatchling's immediate danger. Lucas clenched his fists, determination burning brighter than fear. He had faced impossible odds, relied on his wits, courage, and compassion, and survived. But the night was far from over. The hatchling's glowing pulse flickered again, sending a subtle signal that hinted at secrets he had yet to uncover. And in that instant, Lucas knew one thing: the real test, the true adventure, was only just beginning. Lucas sank to the edge of the lab table, his muscles trembling from exhaustion. The storm outside had eased slightly, leaving the rain to pound steadily against the metal roof. The predator had retreated, or at least it had been driven off. The dragon mother crouched protectively near the hatchling, wings folded but tense, eyes never leaving the lab doors. Lucas allowed himself a slow breath. They had survived. For now. The hatchling lay on the blanket, its glowing chest pulsing steadily, a soft, warm light filling the small lab. Lucas reached out, cautiously touching its tiny head. It stirred, nuzzling his hand with surprising intelligence. The glow synchronized with the scanners, now stable and rhythmic. The baby dragon's life, once teetering on the edge, was secure, proof of Lucas's quick thinking, courage, and compassion. "Easy, you're safe now," he whispered, brushing damp hair from his forehead. The dragon mother let out a low, rumbling growl, less a threat now and more a sound of approval. Her eyes softened as they fixed on Lucas. In that moment, Lucas realized something extraordinary. The bond between human and dragon wasn't just survival. It was trust, respect, and understanding that crossed the barriers of species and worlds. He scanned the hatchling's glowing glyphs again. Slowly, the patterns shifted into something he could almost decipher. Fragments of memory, images of a distant world, and the predator's pursuit flashed in his mind. Then came a set of coordinates, faint but unmistakable, encoded in the pulse itself. Lucas's brow furrowed. This wasn't over. The hatchling wasn't just a helpless creature. It was a key, a guide to a place beyond his knowledge, perhaps even beyond Earth. Lucas glanced at the dragon mother. She lowered her head slightly, eyes reflecting hope and urgency. He realized she understood more than he did. She had entrusted her child to him for a reason. He wasn't just a caretaker. He was a protector, an ally, and now a participant in something far larger than the storm, the predator, or the lab itself. He began to organize the lab quickly, using the last of his energy to stabilize the equipment. The scanners were patched into the hatchling's pulses, logging every heartbeat, every flicker of light. Each measurement gave Lucas insight into the alien physiology, but more importantly, it revealed something remarkable. The hatchling's energy could interface with technology in ways he had never imagined. A human alone had managed what might have seemed impossible, synchronizing with an alien life form, stabilizing it, and creating a defense against an overwhelmingly powerful predator. The hatchling stirred again, eyes opening wide. Its gaze met Lucas's directly, and for the first time he felt a mental nudge, subtle but clear. Images and impressions of a hidden sanctuary flashed in his mind. An alien world, vast and dangerous, yet vibrant and alive. The hatchling's pulse quickened, and Lucas understood. This place, this sanctuary, might hold the answers to the predator, the species, and perhaps the key to why the hatchling had come to him in the first place. He looked back at the dragon mother. Her massive head tilted slightly, wings brushing the lab walls. She roared softly, almost like a whisper of thanks. Lucas nodded, a lump forming in his throat. The danger had passed, yes, but a greater journey loomed. He realized the true scope of what had happened. Humans could not only survive against the impossible, they could rise to meet it and even shine in ways the universe had not expected. For a long moment, he let the quiet settle. Rain pattered steadily, the storm finally yielding to calm. The hatchling's glow lit the lab like a tiny sun, steady and reassuring. Lucas allowed himself a small smile. He had saved a life, faced an unimaginable threat, and earned the trust of a being whose intelligence and strength rivaled any human imagination. That alone was a victory. But then came a subtle, almost imperceptible flicker in the hatchling's glow. Lucas leaned closer. The pulses were forming a pattern again, coordinates, yes, but this time interlaced with something more. Symbols he didn't fully understand. A message. An invitation. A warning. He realized that the predator had been only one part of a larger challenge. The night had tested his courage, his mind, and his compassion, but the real adventure lay ahead. The dragon mother nudged the hatchling gently, and the baby creature chirped, bright and steady. Lucas felt a surge of determination. He had a choice: retreat to safety, or follow the path the hatchling had illuminated, stepping into the unknown to discover the secrets of this alien world. He knew that he could not turn away. This was more than survival, it was a chance to witness, understand, and protect something extraordinary, something no human had ever experienced before. As Lucas secured the hatchling and prepared for the journey, the hatchling's glow pulsed once more, sharp and bright, forming a radiant signal against the night sky. A subtle thrill ran through him. He realized this signal might attract attention. Friends, enemies, or forces yet unknown. The stakes were higher than ever, but Lucas didn't flinch. Humanity had carried him this far, and it would carry him further still. Courage, intelligence, and compassion were his weapons, and he would need all three for what was coming. Lucas stepped back, catching one last glance at the dragon mother. Her eyes held gratitude, warning, and expectation all at once. He placed a hand on the hatchling, feeling its tiny body pulse beneath his palm. "We'll face this together," he said softly. The hatchling chirped in response, its light steady, unwavering, as if affirming the bond between them. Outside, the storm clouds had begun to break, revealing a distant glimmer of stars. Yet Lucas could feel the presence of the predator lurking somewhere beyond the horizon, waiting, calculating. The hatchling's glow flickered again and Lucas knew, the universe was vast, dangerous and full of mystery, but he would not face it alone. With that realization, Lucas's heart surged with resolve. Humans could rise to the impossible. They could shine when the odds were stacked against them. And as he prepared to step into the unknown, following the hatchling's guiding pulse, he understood something profound. The adventure had only just begun. The hatchling's glow brightened once more, forming shapes Lucas couldn't yet understand, a silent promise of wonders, dangers and discoveries ahead. And in that light, Lucas knew one undeniable truth: this was not the end. It was the beginning of something far greater.